Welcome and thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Sitecore Water Cooler, the casual conversation podcast dedicated to covering all things related to Sitecore, including product updates, implementations, insights, getting the most out of your Sitecore investment, and more. I'm your host, John Price, Global Sitecore Practice Director and MVP at AmericanEagle.com. We have started our series of discussing each core product of the Sitecore Composable stack. Last episode, we discussed Sitecore Personalize and CDP with Danny Robinson and Sarah O'Reilly. And today we are discussing Sitecore Send and its place within Sitecore's Engagement Cloud. Today, I'm joined by Paul Brennan, Senior Director of the Send product at Sitecore. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan. How you doing? It's great to be on the podcast today, chatting about Send. Looking forward to the chat.
Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to the conversation today. So we'll just start out. Paul, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at Sitecore.
Look, I'll give you a bit of background. So, I'm based here in Dublin, in Ireland. The risk of showing my age a bit here. I suppose I've been working in product management for about 20 years now. God, it's a long time. I'd like to think the career has been fairly varied. First half of my career was very much a banker. So I worked in major banks in Ireland, the UK, and spent a long time in Australia managing various savings and mortgage products. Very B2C focused at that time, engaging, communicating effectively with our customers from a sales and service perspective. Then about 8 years ago, when I moved back to Ireland from Australia, I jumped into the software world and headed up the product function for a couple of SaaS B2B companies in the fintech space during that time, right? Really interesting industry, actually. So much change going on there right now. Then about a year ago, the opportunity to join Sitecore came up and jump into the MarTech space. And look, it's great being part of the team here at Sitecore. The product vision we're driving towards, I think, is really very compelling. And, working here every day, there's a great enthusiasm and keenness to give our clients the best products possible while we're trying to get to that vision, My role in terms of the specifics around that, you said it there, Jonathan, I'm the Senior Product Director for Send. And what does that entail? Well, it involves a load of different things in support of the Send product. So that everything from setting prioritization and driving the product roadmap, managing product feature launches, including, go-to-market materials and working with our colleagues and getting good go-to-market outcomes, supporting our sales and partner teams as needed, as well as our existing customers, of course. Working on incorporating Send into the engagement cloud and wider product strategy, and generally dealing with day-to-day issues or opportunities. I can tell you one day is never the same as the next in this role. It's ever-changing.
I can imagine. You're definitely joining at a very fun and interesting time, so I'm sure every day is a new adventure. Yeah, and I have the privilege of sitting on Sitecore's Partner Advisory Council. I've heard Dave O'Flanagan talk a little bit about Sitecore's roadmap over the past year or so, and Sitecore Send, I know, has some very exciting things on that roadmap. We'll get to the roadmap later, but I don't want to say that Sitecore Send's been glanced over a little bit as part of Sitecore's Composable stack, but I think there's a lot of people wondering, what's its position in the market, what can it do? So maybe next, Paul, what is Sitecore Send? What capabilities does it bring? I think email and marketing automation are extremely important, but kind of want to just hear it directly from you.
Yeah, no, it's a fair call, actually, Jonathan. So, all right, look, let's talk about Send specific and the product, right? So, Sitecore Send is very much about executing great email marketing campaigns, right? Yeah. And the capabilities and the design of the platform is centered around that basic principle, right? Now, there's a lot of things that hang off that to be able to achieve, great marketing, email marketing campaigns, right? So, for example, I'll go through them a little bit, right? So we have a variety of tools that enable to start with effective subscriber list management, right? Including the updating of lists from external data sources. That's supported by things like custom field capture and tagging of tactical campaign segmentation. So you can really manage your customer, your subscriber base in terms of email marketing, tactical segmentation and list management. We've got a really great intuitive UI for creating content, right? So we put a brand new editor in place. So it's really we'd like to think it's the best in market in terms of and when you compare our capability for content creation against some of our competitors, it's very powerful and strong. We also support a lot of the kind of subscriber growth or the growth things like lead generation forms, subscriber generation forms, and landing pages that's incorporated in the tool. So, not email marketing per se, but growing that subscriber list. And then when you start to build the other components of the platform on top of that, we have a pretty cool drag and drop automation tool, right, that supports automated workflow orchestration for email campaigns. There's no need for developers or IT departments. This can be all done by a marketing person or someone setting up the campaign. More recently, we're also adding a lot more great machine learning tools for e-commerce as well. So again, it's that, talking to the customer about the right things at the right place. And that's all kind of wrapped in, reporting and performance tracking. So how is the campaign going? And it's integrated with your website outcomes. How's the campaign going? How did it actually perform in terms of clicks, sales, and engagement? And we also have it's an API driven platform, of course. We're Sitecore Composable, right? So I'm sure, based on your podcast, most people know how we behave, but it's important to say, the various integration possibilities are right across there on the product. So, it's a really, you hear email marketing and you think very simple, but actually it's a really comprehensive set of tools that support that end-to-end execution of email marketing and email marketing campaign management.
Very cool. Yeah, I know you mentioned a lot of very important things, just to extract a few. So, easy to create, campaigns through an interface. I think there's a lot of, I think most of us use an email campaign tool in our past. So it's great to see you guys check that box. Like, hey, very easy to use, very easy to manage. Don't need to go back to developer. That's awesome to hear. You also mentioned something that's very interesting to me, and I'm sure many of the listeners, is e-commerce. So I know Order Cloud, very large focus for Sitecore. Anything else you can kind of unpack on what you guys are doing in the e-commerce space, or what you're preparing to do?
Yeah, look, I think the e-commerce space is really interesting, and I think it's really interesting when you look at where email marketing is moving, right? And you look at the usage, and we talk about market context and stuff like that. The perceptions of email marketing has moved from that sort of cold spam type mass emails, right? To that much more targeted and customized approach. And, particularly, you can talk about that in non-brand building, but in e-commerce perspective, it really starting to make a huge amount of space. So, campaigns, how are you creating campaigns? Can they be sent at a time that suits the customer with content and offers tailored for them? Email marketing that can, really help complete those broken sales journey. And you mentioned Order Cloud, how do you get the engagement journeys? Abandoned cart, for example, the guys in Order Cloud are building, and it'll be released soon. They're building a trigger straight through to send from their interface to be able to execute against that. As well as making those sales in a more direct fashion of cementing the large e-commerce marketplaces, it can really help the brand to better own customer relationships, if you like. So there's a lot inherent in the platform to be able to support that and drive that through customer tagging and lists. But one of the things we're doing, and I know we're planning to get to the roadmap later, but one of the things we're doing, and I mentioned the AI e-commerce tools. The key call out of something we're delivering. We've already delivered in November, and we're launching a second phase this month. Is a thing called audience discovery, which is an AI capability, and it identifies customers with that product interest or propensity to purchase, as well as potentially for value to purchase. Really smart stuff. For any Send customers listening, it's live. Get in there, get into the function, check it out. And we're launching phase 2, which will automate a lot of the segmentation in there, but it's already live. And it's a really smart technology. It uses around product, brand interest, and propensity to purchase, as I said. Clients then create their segments and can target these segments with focused email campaigns. The other thing we're doing a lot of, Jonathan, is working with the other products. And I can talk a little more detail in this later, but how do we incorporate the smarts that exist in other products? So people that have those products or clients, Sitecore clients that have those products like Personalize, Discover, and other areas, how do we incorporate those directly into the Send journey? And we're doing a lot of work to be able to have that straight through process and make sure that, the e-commerce outcomes are achievable, not just from those products, but right through to the email execution. And we track, measure, monitor all of this. That's a natural Sitecore thing we do. How did it perform, and how do we make it better the next time?
Yeah, just listening to you talk, I can kind of see Sitecore Send sitting in the middle of, Order Cloud, Personalize, and CDP, and kind of really being an orchestrator for a lot of this. So Definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely
Yeah.
very exciting. And you also mentioned something about the one-to-one kind of direct personalization. Not your exact words. I'm just kind of paraphrasing here.
Yes.
Something we're also going to talk with Chris Janning about on the Sitecore search and discover side. That's exactly what they do as well. So I like to kind of see that's going to be consistent across the platforms. You're trying to get down to that individual user, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think it's fundamental, Jonathan, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Like, the days of these mass marketing campaigns are gone, aren't they? It's just not effective. It's not working. And, we need to think about smarter ways of engaging customers. People are getting bombarded. There's too much stuff coming at them, How are you actually engaging with them in a meaningful way on a topic or subject that they want, both from a brand building perspective
Yep.
and from that sort of sales and service perspective? And I think it's fundamental. It's fundamental, and we talk about roadmap later. It's all over my roadmap. What are we doing?
Yep.
How are we getting personalization in there? How are we making this thing more relevant at the in terms of the timing and the content execution?
No, that's perfect. I think just even over the past few years, tying this back, just kind of what the market's doing, what businesses are doing, trying to like group people into mass personas. Like there's a lot less work of that being done nowadays because it can be widely ineffective. So going down to this more personal, detailed level is definitely the route to go. So it's great to see you guys are on that journey.
Yeah, and you mentioned CDP on this, Jonathan. And it's the smarts are there. The data capability is there, and it's about leveraging that. And that's our goal in the engagement cloud space. How do we leverage that data to make those interaction points much more relevant?
Yep.
And given times, and of course, email is a key one for us.
For sure. No, that's all great. So with Sitecore Send, I completely get where it's sitting in the Sitecore Composable stack. But Sitecore Send, as a tool in itself, like just sitting alone and maybe working in a composable world with other platforms, where does Sitecore Send sit in the marketplace compared to other similar type of tools?
Yeah, look, I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about the capability, right? And there are certain competitors out there that are pure ESP, let's call them. You send an email and it's just a mass distribution system. And what we position ourselves as being able to do a lot more than that, right? Yes, we do email well. Yes, we do deliverability exceptionally well. But, when you look at the needs of the customer and, what we talked about from an e-commerce perspective, but also from a brand building perspective, what are we trying to achieve for the brands? Emails checked every day by customers. Customers can engage with their brand on an ongoing basis. And there's an opportunity to build that kind of rapport and utilizing the different tools in that. So we look at all of that and not just, how do I get an email in somebody's inbox?
Sure.
How do I automate a campaign to deliver something at the same right time in the right place with the right content, right? How do I manage my lists effectively? How do I generate, great content and support its optimal timing of delivery, personalization of that content as we discussed, and the value outcomes. So when I talk about positioning of Send, I like to think of it in that space. It's easy to get pigeonholed in just sending an email. That's not where we play. We actually have a lot of tools and capabilities that support the value outcomes. You look at, email marketing, right? The return on investment for email marketing is the highest of any channel of marketing channel there is. It's $40 on the dollar right now, right? That's the latest stats to say every dollar you spend in email marketing, you get 40 back, right? Which is actually twice the next channel of SEO. And we're seeing actually a boom in the marketplace right now. The US, for example, is predicted to double from 2 billion a year in 2020 to 4 billion a year in 2027. And it's not because people are sending mass emails, like I said, in the ESP faction. It's because it's the smarts and the capability. And that's very much where we're positioning ourselves, Jonathan, in the market, vis-a-vis, just put through stuff on a high level.
Sure. No, and as a consumer, it makes sense because I'm a sucker for clicking on those emails that are personalizing me and buying something. So definitely setting those.
I'm on like wineonline.com.
Exactly.
I tell you what, the amount of the amount of emails I get through on a Friday afternoon that it's like, yes, I'll have that.
Yeah.
But I signed up, right? And it's real content that I want to see at the right time on a Friday when I'm ready to go.
Exactly.
To go out or whatever,
Love it. And going back to a previous point, the market positioning makes total sense. Like you're not going after the lower to mid market tools. You guys are much more sophisticated from the email side. Makes total sense. But diving back into the previous discussion point on, how does Sitecore Send play with the rest of the Sitecore Composable stack? We talked a little about Order Cloud, talked a little about CDP.
Sure.
Anything else you want to highlight for the audience, just as far as how Sitecore Send can play or is going to be playing with the rest of the Sitecore Composable stack?
Yeah, look, I think I think you have another podcast with Danny and Sarah around the Engagement Cloud
Yep.
and CDP. But you did mention, Jonathan, Sitecore Send is part of the Engagement Cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as the name suggests, that supports customer engagement. So our sister products, or our couple products, if you like, are our CDP, our personalized, and now our new product Connect, which is just launched. And what the combined products of Engagement Cloud do is support our customers in the important aspects of the customer journey, right? Our ultimate goal is to enable our clients to unlock that customer data and make every interaction smarter. And the guys can tune into the other podcast around CDP personalized, because there's some really cool stuff in there. And the new Connect product as well, which has been launched, is that kind of external connectors and plugins to support integrated triggers. But we don't see it in isolation, right? It's not like,
Yep.
Hey, there's a cloud and engagement kind of things. We are constantly working on better ways to interact with the other products in the content and commerce cloud spaces, right? Because it's really important we do that to give those great end-to-end client and customer experiences across the products. And look, I can talk to a little bit of that in the roadmap. We're doing actually a lot of that work on Send in the coming months, whether it's in content. We've got some commerce stuff coming up, as well as better integration in the other Engagement Cloud products too,
Wonderful.
So it's a holistic kind of thing. We're always talking, we're always chatting, and it's a pretty tight product function here at Sitecore. So we have a very strong sense of what's going on in the other spaces, what's on their roadmaps, and how we do things together in a coherent way to get great customer outcomes.
Perfect. I'm chomping at the bit to get to the roadmap, but there's always something I like to ask, and that's for specific examples of what maybe some customers of Sitecore's that are doing a really great job of utilizing Sitecore Send at the moment, or plan on how they want to utilize it. So without naming any specific customers or any specific use cases you'd like to highlight of someone really doing a great job with the platform so far?
Let me think. So the interesting thing about email marketing is that everyone needs it, right? So,
Yep.
When you look at the customer base, it's hugely varied across industry, size of company, geography. It really is. And as I was saying earlier, that the importance for brands is changing. So we're actually seeing a lot of larger brands coming in and changing their email marketing strategy, which has been really interesting. Without giving the client name, I'll give you one example of someone I think that's really changed their email marketing strategy.
Great.
How about that? And then
Perfect.
kind of, talking to it. So we did have one client that signed up sort of tail end of last year, or like Q3, early Q4 last year. Very large brand. And they were having some real problems with their existing email deliverability was the main problem. In a couple of ways, they were finding that, number one, they weren't getting in a lot of the inboxes they wanted to get in terms of the email server providers. And also in terms of building their campaigns, they were having to get a lot of IT people and developers involved in the creation of the campaigns, which is time consuming, costly. And, by the time the opportunity comes, in some cases that, your email, your opportunity's gone,
Yep.
So they've come across us to Send, and we've been getting some really great feedback on the speed and simplicity to implement of Send, which they were very positive about. The improvement in the deliverability of their emails, particularly to certain inboxes, has improved immeasurably. And the fact that their marketing people are now running their email, their campaigns completely independently of their IT department. So I really positive in terms of the step change we've been able to achieve for that client. So look, we're just really pleased to get this kind of feedback, and delivering this kind of value for our clients, and that's where we want to go and keep going. And a client like that, we can start to layer in the other stuff we've talked about thereafter, Jonathan, about adding more value, subsequently.
Perfect. And just for my knowledge and probably some of the audiences, when you say deliverability, is that the actual getting through certain email filters, or
yes,
what do you mean by that?
Jonathan, yes, that's getting an email into somebody's
Perfect.
inbox. You'd be surprised how difficult that is, right? You need and actually we've done some really good work on that recently. So, Send is seen as and Sitecore in general is seen as a good quality, or a good sender of good standing and good standards, and we have certification to that effect, right? And that certification actually sits digitally on every email that's sent through, right? So the recipients, whether that's a Google or a Hotmail or whatever that looks like, can see that certification. They know where it's coming from, and it gives you a stronger chance of getting into the inbox, not the spam, but into actually where the client wants it. Now, campaign content also plays a big role in that as well, Jonathan. So we can't be responsible if it's it's rubbish being sent out there, but at the same time, we are we spend a lot of time and effort, making sure that we're very, very high in the stakes of being able to get those emails into the inboxes.
No, that's perfect. That's what I figured, but that's great to hear. Thanks for clarifying that. All right, so let's get to the roadmap. I want to really hear about this. So I guess Paul, I know there's only so many things you guys can share publicly before things are released officially, but what can you share about some of the roadmap items coming up this year and even beyond?
Yeah, no, look, and you're right, Jonathan. As always, as a product guy, I have to call out that our roadmaps are agile in nature, and they're assessed for value as we're delivered. So, but look, what I'll do is give you a good, strong sense of the themes we're focusing on, or at least the themes that are probably important to the audience, and maybe a view of some of the initiatives that you can expect over the next 3 to 6 months or so. The first theme to talk about is Sitecore Better Together. I've kind of probably already mentioned it. If not, it's going through my head every day, right? And this is a key focus for the year across all Sitecore products, actually. And for us here at Send, it's about enabling Send to work more effectively with other Sitecore products. Particularly developing joined-up use cases that present the products combined as greater than the sum of their parts, right? So that you're actually getting great end-to-end journeys and great experiences as you have multiple products. To give you a bit of color, I've spoken about some of these already. Content Hub DAM, so our digital asset management tool, that's going to be integrated into the Send email editor. This month, I'm hoping to launch, or early next month. So you can select imagery directly from here in the Send application and populate your email and your email templates. So a really nice integration to smooth that experience. Connect. So our new product Connect customers will be able to manage subscriber lists through a range of external third-party triggers, right? So it's that kind of integrated plugin capability that will be available to Connect and Send customers. Order Cloud, Jonathan, you mentioned, and we spoke about already. You're going to be able to connect with Send to support execution of triggers within the Order Cloud application. I'd like to take loads of credit for that, but it's our Order Cloud product managers have done all the heavy lifting on that one. But it's a really great integration and will be delivered soon. And presently, we're doing a lot of analysis actually on how Send is going to better align with CDP and personalize. That's going to be a key focus for me, sort of mid-year. From an engagement cloud perspective, and an iterative approach to improvement and making that kind of better. The second theme to kind of talk about is customer focused improvements. Look, this is something we're always doing, right?
Yep.
And it relates to ongoing improvement in the customer offering, right, or the user offering as well as the end customer offering. We'll continue to innovate in areas of new features, user experience, and email deliverability, which we spoke about. And particular focus is in the personalization space. I talked about audience discovery. Again, any Send customers get on it, it's great. But we're also going to be doing a lot of other personalization capability in terms of conditional visibility, for example. So some customers see one version of an email, some customers see another version of an email. And we're also going to look to tackle transactional email campaigns more holistically for Send a little later in the year. Which is something our clients have been asking us to do a bit more on. So we're definitely going to tackle that. The final theme, I think, just to talk to you about product understanding and usage, and this is a real passion of mine, actually. And we're really keen to improve this with all our partners and customers. So something like being on your podcast today, John, is really welcome. So thanks for the opportunity, because it does help us get the message out there. Some of the things we've done, we've launched a brand new API documentation site just before Christmas. And we're looking to make improvements on our general documentation side in the coming months too. We're also doing a lot of work with the demo solutions team at Sitecore. That gives us a load of additional assets to view and demonstrate capabilities. And we're hoping to have these lined up towards the end of Feb as well, early March.
Wonderful.
So look, a lot going on, Jonathan. That's the headline stuff, but hopefully it gives you a good sense of the things to expect from us over the next while.
No, 100%. This has been very helpful, just even from my learning. So I really appreciate all the insights. And you kind of took the question right out of my head. Is what is the best way for someone to learn more about Sitecore Sen? It sounds like you have more documentation. If we were going to direct listeners on where they can go to learn more, where they should be looking out for, is there a specific site or knowledge base?
Yeah, look, I think, the standard Sitecore tools, I think, Sitecore.com and the documentation stuff in there. It is the detailed, the documentation in there is fairly detailed. Obviously the website gives the high level understanding, but what I would say definitely, Jonathan, towards the end of the month, early March, we're going to have some really cool stuff in there, really be able to intuitive, learn fast on the product, well as get in there and potentially get an instance with data included to be able to go in and play and do stuff in there. So, really a lot of cool stuff in this space coming to keep an eye out for.
Awesome. We'll make sure to keep our eyes open here in the next few months and obviously going forward. But Paul, I really appreciate your time today. Really thank you for swinging by, joining us at the water cooler. I look forward to collaborating further with you in the future, and I'm gonna ask you to probably come back on the water cooler and have you on again soon. So again, I really appreciate your time today, Paul.
That'd be great. Listen, thanks for your time as well, and thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Thanks again. Thanks again to Paul Brennan from Sitecore for joining us today on the Sitecore Water Cooler podcast, a casual conversation between colleagues and peers centered around all things Sitecore. I'm your host, John Price, and until the next time we meet at the water cooler, be sure to subscribe to the Sitecore Water Cooler podcast today wherever you find your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios, with special thanks to executive producers Renee Nelson, Julia Klepich, and Brian Winger.